Demetrian Titus, everyone's favourite Ultramarine, has reclaimed his old position as captain of his chapter's second company. Games Workshop recently announced Titus's re-promotion as part of the reveal for Warhammer 40K's end of 10th edition campaign, The 500 Worlds. Now tasked by Rubute Gilman himself to reclaim the losses suffered by the 500 Worlds of Ultramar over the millennia since the Great Crusade, the newly reinstituted Captain Titus has been given a new dripped-out model, befitting of a Space Marine of his position. Joining Titus in his Herculean tasks are some old comrades, including Blade Guard veterans Sergeant Metaurus and Gadriel, who has also been promoted to the position of Ancient. They will also be joined by mortal allies from the Ultramar Defense Auxilia. But as Captain Titus embarks on yet another campaign in defense of the Imperium of Man, it's worth looking back at what he had to go through to get to this point. Whether you're a long-time fan of Warhammer 40K or someone who joined the community because of the Space Marine games or the Warhammer 40K episode of Secret Level, let's look back at Titus's journey from an up-and-coming Ultramarine officer to reluctant captain to disgraced lieutenant and now a captain once more. Demetrian Titus was born approximately in the year 665.M41 to a humble family in the agri-world of Tarentus, one of the many worlds located in the realm of Ultramar. Titus was later selected for induction into the Ultramarines by Metaurus, who would go on to become his mentor. As seen in the Warhammer 40K episode of Secret Level, Metaurus chose Titus to become a Space Marine because he was a child that had never known fear, one of the qualities all Astartes should have, as deemed by the Emperor of Mankind himself. Titus then had to go through all the trials and tribulations of a Space Marine aspirant, including numerous surgeries to turn him into a transhuman warrior and a stint in the Ultramarines' 10th Company as a scout. He then rose through the ranks to join the 2nd Company, the Ultramarines' foremost battle company, and forged a friendship with a battle brother named Sidonus. Titus would also exhibit his uncanny resistance to the powers of the warp early in his career, when he single-handedly killed a Chaos Sorcerer that had slain the rest of his squad, notably surviving the Sorcerer's warp-infused attacks. Titus would become the captain of the Ultramarines for the first time in the world of Beta Arcturus, which was under attack by Eldari forces from the craft world Bieltan. The 2nd Company captain at the time, Lucian Trajan, slew the Eldar Autarch, but was later killed in an ambush while attempting to save a captured Ultramarine, Leandros. Titus led the counterattack to recover Trajan's body and rescue Leandros, then assumed command to drive the Eldar away from Beta Arcturus for good. For his deeds, Titus was formally instituted as captain for the 2nd Company by the Ultramarines chapter master Marnius Calgar. 150 years into his illustrious service as a Space Marine, including a decade as captain of the 2nd Company, Titus would lead an Ultramarine strike force to relieve the Forge World of Graia against an Orc Warg, led by the war boss Grimskull along Sidonus and Leandros. This is when we're first introduced to Titus in the original Warhammer 40K Space Marine video game in 2011. During the Battle of Graia, Titus managed to repel the Orcs and foil the schemes of the Chaos Space Marine warband known as the Chosen of Nimroth. After Sidonus was slain by the leader of the Chaos Warband, the Chaos Sorcerer Nimroth, Titus once again showcased his resistance to the powers of the Warp by slaying Nimroth just before he could ascend into demonhood. Titus's heroics in Graia were unfortunately met with suspicions of heresy from none other than Leandros, who claimed that only someone already tainted by chaos would be unaffected by its corruption. But instead of directing his accusations to the Ultramarines' chain of command, Leandros instead handed Titus over to an inquisitor named Thrax. Titus was imprisoned by Thrax for over a century, with another legendary figure in the Ultramarines, Cato Sicarius, taking over as captain of the 2nd Company in his absence. While Chapter Master Calgar made numerous petitions to the Inquisition to have Titus returned to his chapter, these requests either fell on deaf ears or were lost in the labyrinthine bureaucracy of the Inquisition. While no sign of chaos corruption was ever found in Titus, it was actually Thrax himself who turned out to have been tainted by the ruinous powers. During an inquisitorial operation, Thrax was possessed by a demon and promptly slain by his accompanying retinue from the enigmatic Space Marine chapter of the Grey Knights. An investigation into Thrax's dealings following his death would lead to Titus and other imprisoned Space Marines being found. They were sent to the Death Watch for evaluation, with Titus joining this chapter after he was found free of Chaos Taint. The Death Watch is a chapter of Space Marines specialized in dealing with the many Xenos threats plaguing the Imperium, with its members hailing from many different chapters. Most Death Watch members still identified themselves as part of their original chapters by keeping their original chapter heraldry on one of their pauldrons. However, Titus joined the Death Watch as a Black Shield instead, severing all ties with the Ultramarines as he thought he had brought shame to his original chapter, even taking on an entirely new identity as Brother Nullus. Titus silently continued his exemplary service for the Imperium in the Death Watch, even as the galaxy burned in the wake of Abaddon the Despoiler's 13th Black Crusade, and the Ultramarines Primarch Rubite Gilmon was resurrected to lead the Indomitus Crusade. At the start of Space Marine 2, we see Titus as Brother Nullus lead a Death Watch kill team on a mission to the world of Kadaku, in the Basidius system as part of the 4th Tyrannic War against the Tyranids of High Fleet Leviathan. In Kadaku, Titus' kill team were picked off one by one as they attempted to detonate a virus bomb to stem the Tyranid swarm. While Titus managed to detonate the virus bomb, he was gravely wounded while fighting a Carnifex. But just as he prepared to command his soul to the Emperor, Titus was saved at the last minute by an Ultramarines relief force led by the chapter's chief librarian, Varro Tigurius, who had detected the soul sign of the former 2nd Company captain. Due to Titus's grievous wounds, his only chance at survival was to undergo the Rubicon Primaris, the process that turned a firstborn Space Marine into the new and stronger Primaris Space Marine. Having been remade into a Primaris Space Marine and waking up to find himself in the company of a mysterious chaplain, Titus finally rejoined the Ultramarines as part of the 2nd Company. But a lot has changed since his disappearance, with Sylvestus Acheron now holding the position of 2nd Company Captain. Demoted to the rank of lieutenant, Titus joined a new squad alongside Sergeant Valorum Gadriel and battle brother Medurus Charon. Alongside his new squad, Titus spearheaded the Ultramarines' 2nd Company campaign in the Basidius system against the Tyranids and forces from the Thousand Suns Chaos Space Marine Legion, under the command of the Chaos Sorcerer Imura. While Gadriel and Charon had their suspicions of Titus due to his mysterious past, they would forge a close bond of brotherhood as they battled the Tyranids and the Thousand Suns. In the climactic final battle of Space Marine 2 in the world of Demirium, Titus and the Ultramarines, including the badass Dreadnought Valtus and the chapter's 1st Company under Chapter Master Kalgur, cast the Thousand Suns back into the warp. Titus once again showcased his resistance to Chaos Taint when he defeated a Lord of Change, a greater demon of the Chaos God Tzeentch, and banished Imura. And if you somehow agree with Leandros that Titus is tainted by Chaos, he's awoken by a mysterious voice that many think came from none other than the Emperor of Mankind himself. Space Marine 2 ends with Titus receiving the laurels of victory from Kalgur, who then asks him to go on a mission of great importance. Before Titus leaves, the mysterious chaplain that was present during his awakening revealed himself to be none other than that Leandros, who wastes no time in telling Titus that despite all that he has done in defense of the Imperium, the stain of suspicion never truly fades. The end of Space Marine 2 then leads directly to the start of the Warhammer 40K episode of Secret Level, with Titus embarking on a mission tasked to him by Kalgur. Titus is joined in this mission by his old mentor, Metaurus, who now leads a squad of Blade Guard veterans, some of the most elite warriors among the Ultramarines. This small elite squad was given a veritable suicide mission to destroy a Chaos relic on the planet Zaush, which had fallen victim to a Chaos cult dedicated to Tzeentch. After one of the best depictions of Space Marines in action, the squad was attacked by a mutant Chaos Sorcerer. It used their fears against them, killing the 2 other Blade Guard veterans and seriously wounding Metaurus. But Titus, who had never known fear since he was a child, was unaffected and he promptly slew the sorcerer. So, if you were wondering how Titus was able to resist the taint of chaos for so long, the answer is simple. Titus is just built different. The Secret Level episode ends with Titus preparing to face off a horde of chaos cultists on his own to protect the wounded Metaurus. Many expected that we needed to wait until Space Marine 3 to come out for Titus' story to continue, But apparently, Games Workshop had other plans. Out of nowhere, Games Workshop announced that Titus has reclaimed his old position as captain of the Ultramarine's second company, and that he had been tasked by Gilman himself to reclaim the losses suffered by the 500 worlds of Ultramar. With the new Captain Titus kit featuring only Metaurus and Gadriel, many were left wondering why Charon was absent. Not only that, what happened to Acheron that caused the position of second company captain to become vacant? Well, Games Workshop later revealed that both Acheron and Charon were killed after they trapped themselves within a hive city in a planet named Trig that was infested by a gene stealer cult, an offshoot faction of the Tyranids comprised of Tyranid human hybrids that were used by the hive fleets to sow chaos before the arrival of the main swarm. Acheron and Charon sacrificed themselves to keep the gene stealer cult and save the planet. Oh, if only Acheron could have spared more than 3 men. While we would have liked Acheron and Charon's last stand to at least be depicted in a Black Library novel or something, we unfortunately only have a Warhammer community article to commemorate their noble sacrifice. May they rest peacefully in the Emperor's light, though it should have been Leandros instead. Now Titus leads the Ultramarines' second company to battle once more. This time around, they will face the ancient Xenos threat of the Necron. Once the most powerful empire in the galaxy, they slumbered for millions of years and are now slowly awakening to a cosmos ripe for conquest. With the final battle of Space Marine 2 taking place in a Necron tomb world, and the 500 Worlds campaign seeing Titus facing off against them as well, all signs point towards the Necron being the primary antagonist of Space Marine 3. Even after centuries of service, countless conflicts, and lost comrades, there seems to be no end to the battles Captain Titus must face. For in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.